interest. If something's right outside your house, let us know. Right, we'll just get straight into it, and we'll welcome Chairperson of the Waitai Coastal Burwood Linwood Community Board.
Oh, we're going to do a staff.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Hang on, Paul. We're going to have a quick staff presentation to kick us off this morning. It's just 20 minutes, and I think we're not having questions after.
No.
So we won't do questions after the presentation. We'll hear the presentation, and then we'll go straight into the deputations. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Is that you, Jacob? Oh, it is.
Pardon? Yeah.
Oh.
You don't recognise me with the tie on.
Stunning.
So I'll try and give you a recap on kind of how we got to this position, then I'll hand over to Ryan, who'll talk a bit more about transport choices itself and a bit about the projects, and then Sam will go into the engagement and consultation. I'll start right back at the very beginning. So the Climate Emergency Response Fund was set up in 2021. It uses proceeds from the emissions trading scheme. The plan was always this would be used for climate-related projects. So this is a multi-billion-dollar fund. It covers many things: decarbonising industry, reduction of agriculture emissions. There's a big fund for supporting the transition to cleaner vehicles. But the bits that affect us as council are the VKT reduction planning, which we're doing with our Greater Christchurch partners, and the transport choices, which is a $350 million fund that Wakatahi are administering to support mode shift. And that's the fundamental bit. It's about the mode shift change. Oh, we've lost a slide somewhere. Oh, interesting. There was another slide in there that that's come out. So information was released in August 2022. We submitted an application in September 22, and we were informed of our success in late December 22. I'm sure as councillors you'll remember that we had the whole discussion as part of the annual plan about what we put in and what we didn't put in. And it came with some quite strong, what's the word I'm looking for? Conditions associated with it, mostly around time, and particularly that we had to complete all the physical works by the end of June 24, and that detailed design had to be complete by the end of September 23. So we are here at the point where detailed design needs to be complete, and we are working with Wakatahi on that. So as a brief reminder, when I say we were successful and we were informed of success, we applied for 14 projects across the 4 categories that they set, which are up there. And we were successful with all 14 projects in every single category, which huge kudos to our team for their submission. I mean, that was a fantastic result, but it gave us as council a headache in terms of deliverability. So, like I said, remembering that bit about the annual plan, the deliverability discussions, 3 of those projects we decided not to progress. We've gone through the process of starting the design, and another one of those projects, for various reasons, we've come to realise it's probably not deliverable in the time frame. So between us and Wakatahi, we made a decision that should be pulled. So the Gloucester Street East-West connection has gone as well. So of the original 14 we were given, we're now down to 10, which was always part of Wakatahi's plan. I think the impression we've got is that they oversubscribed the 350 million on the understanding that projects would drop out. So that's not a massive problem. Sorry, one thing I will point out on here is the time frame. So this is something that one of the councillors raised in a discussion the other day, is what would happen if you don't progress these projects. And there's a mixture of different things. It depends on the project. But in some of the cases, it would mean it would revert back to where it was always going to be delivered, which is 2-3 years in the future in many cases, which makes it at risk due to LTP discussions and so on. For others, it's allowed us to deliver more of programmes that we'd been talking to community boards about. So on the craft projects, effectively we'd said, we'll start at the top of your priorities, we'll work down until we run out of money. And SURF coming along has allowed us to draw that line further down and deliver a lot more of what the community board had asked us to do, which is fabulous, really, but it means that we need to make those decisions and carry on. Projects chosen for delivery. These are the projects that were chosen for delivery. For those who are eagle-eyed amongst you, you will notice that on the list of projects, there was also the public transport infrastructure. That will come to you under a separate council meeting. Something slightly different has happened with that. We've already got the approval to do parts of the delivery section, so we'll come back to you separately on that. And the Linwood School slip lane is actually a craft-funded project, but due to the fact that it was ready and it's in the same area, it was consulted on at the same time. So that will go through the standard community board decision process.
It has, yeah.
Okay, there you go, already done. So I'm about to hand over, but just before I do, I'd very quickly like to say the tight timeframes we've got have really set us a real challenge, and I'd like to say publicly, I'm really, really impressed by the way our transport team has jumped on this, and also engagement and comms, procurement, the governance team, and also our external designers and contractors. We couldn't be in the position we're in without people really jumping on this and running with it. So I'd like to thank them publicly. And with that, I'll hand over to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks. So I'm just going to talk briefly around the design process. So Waka Kotahi have developed some parameters that essentially they're assessing and they're driving the outcomes that they're looking for with transport choices, which are outlined up there. So, and they've been quite careful at ensuring that they're getting their outcomes through their design reviews. So just to talk about the design process, we've come up with some initial concepts that we've consulted on. We've had quite a lot of feedback from the community, and that's helped drive a lot of changes through our designs to help align that with our designs with what the community is seeking. Waka Kotahi have employed a sort of a team of designers to go through and look over our designs in quite a lot of detail and make sure that they're aligned with their outcomes. So we've made a few changes to the plans as well to also make sure they're aligned with transport choices or Waka Kotahi's funding requirements. And we've made a few changes as well as a result of safety audits. And after all that process, it's gone back to Waka Kotahi and they've re-reviewed it. And now they're they're happy with the outcomes that they're getting with the set of package of projects that we've put together. And it's also worth touching on with those design parameters what the funding is for and what it's not for. So obviously it's around promoting transport choices, so sustainable transport modes, and making that more viable option for people in our community to use those modes. And some of the things that the funding won't cover are efficiency improvements, so for those intersection upgrades that make it more efficient for cars to use. Maintenance and asset renewal, so funding maintenance upgrades as part of these projects. And also things like antisocial road user behaviour and heavy vehicle restrictions and things like that. That's not what this funding is about. Next one. And I think there's an important point to touch on with governance as well. So the way that the Transport Choices governance structure is set up through with Waka Kotahi being the primary funding partner with these packages of works, it's been set up in a two-stage approach where they have funded us to do all the design and get to the point that we're at now. They haven't funded us for construction, so that the funding of construction is subject to getting the design outcomes that they've essentially collaborated with us on. So we're in a position now where we need a council decision to essentially confirm that these projects are consistent with the community outcomes, and also a Waka Kotahi decision to I guess agree to go into construction with these fundings to fund the projects for constructions. So it's essentially a two-tick, process that we need to be able to confirm and deliver these projects. One, from Waka Kotahi from a construction funding perspective, and two, from council from a community outcomes perspective. And there's a question around what can council influence with these designs, and the way that I've been thinking about that is that effectively what Waka Kotahi are offering is a set of outcomes that we've negotiated that are sort of represented by the designs that we're asking council to approve. And the more that council looks to move away from those negotiated outcomes, the less likely it is that Waka Kotahi would accept that from a funding agreement perspective. So what can we think about and what might be a problem? So the further we move away, the more that's moving away from what's been negotiated with Waka Kotahi from a design outcome. They're very concerned with deliverability within the time frame, so changes that create more trouble in terms of, or would mean that it's harder for us to deliver within the time frame, that's going to be something they consider with their funding approvals. And so what else could be considered? So anything that wouldn't require re-consultation, so reconsultation has a time implication, and that would be problematic. Cost neutral or reduction in scope would be something that could be considered. Any changes would have to be aligned with those Transport Choices funding criteria, or essentially aligned with what the program is attempting to achieve. And there's some elements such as separation. So Waka Kotahi has been very strong on separation, as in providing for young and vulnerable road users. So that's a very strong element of their requirements within the cycling projects. So hopefully that gives a bit of a steer about, I guess, any scope for movement within the recommendations that have been put forward. And just finally on the funding approval side of things, we have a deadline of 30th September to have Waka Kotahi agree the designs that have been put forward, and that's a stepping stone to the funding agreements required mid-October. And essentially what Waka Kotahi is looking for with the designs that they need to approve by the end of September is certainty with the level of design and confidence that we're going to be able to deliver those projects. So, for example, if a project needed to be reconsulted on, or something had changed and it needed to go through a safety audit process, that is something that they would look at that would give them less confidence on our ability to deliver. And as Jacob mentioned earlier, they have over-committed the program. And so part of what they're looking for when they realign the program that they take forward to construction is what are the projects that are giving the outcomes they're looking for, and how confident they are that we're going to be able to deliver those in the timeframes. And just one last final point is that what we can say is with the staff recommendations that we're putting up, we do feel that we've put our best foot forward and that we've been very collaborative. We've moved as far as we can to meet community aspirations, and Waka Kotahi has been very impressed with the alignment that we've been able to reach with what they're looking for with the Transport Choices outcomes as well. So I'll leave it at that point.
Tēnā koutou. I'll just go quickly over the consultation process. So local residents received warm-up flyers in their mailboxes from late May, indicating that would be seeking feedback mid-June. Early engagement with key stakeholders and some door knocking took place prior to consultation, but most of the engagement from this program happened during consultation when we had a scheme plan to share with communities. There were varying methods of providing feedback, including via the interactive map, as well as via paper forms, post, email, and face-to-face opportunities. Key stakeholders were met with before and or during consultation, such as local schools, Spokes, St John, New Zealand Police, Fire and Emergency, and the Disabled Persons Assembly, among others. A number of public meetings were also held where requested with elected members, schools, businesses and residents to seek feedback and chat through the plans. So I know a number of you also attended those. We employed a range of tactics to reach the community across the program. The ones you can see here really demonstrate the efforts for advertising and marketing across the city, with a special focus on Linwood and Bromley, given the nature of projects that were proposed for Linwood and Bromley. Our signage and footpath decals were more creative ways of reaching people that actually use the street to walk, or existing cycle connections, which we are keen to explore for future consultations. One other tactic that we were able to explore was workshops with tamariki from Whita School, who initially helped inform the scheme plans for School Safety Linwood by workshopping locations that they wanted to see safety improvements in their suburb getting to school, and then were revisited once we had scheme plans to share their ideas on the plans and use post-it notes to say what they liked and what they disliked. So this is just an example of the map that we used for consultation, which made it quite easy for the more digitally focused to look at the scheme plans, look at where they were proposed, and have them all colour-coded so that you could see the rationale behind each type of project proposed. The map had the ability to click into each pin, see the scheme plan, and see some rationale for why it was proposed. The map is still live at the link below, so although feedback is closed, anyone is welcome to go and have a look to see how it works and what was proposed. Just in terms of an overarching view of what we heard, we had over 1,000 interactions on our map, made up of over 500 submissions and 543 comments. There were 1,432 upvotes, 319 downvotes, and some common themes across the projects included requests for route extensions, requests for traffic calming, including more speed humps, requests for treatments, widening the curb at side streets, and there was some concern about car parking loss, especially on our cycle connection projects. A lot of requests for wayfinding, lighting and signage as well, especially for the cycle connections. Sentiment ranged quite a lot across projects, which is why I'm going to leave it here in terms of this presentation. We've done our best to demonstrate that in the reports. And in terms of individual projects, again, I just recommend people read the agenda to get more of a feel of the unique themes across the projects. One more slide here. So just some examples of changes that we made post-consultation. So I've highlighted I think the most impactful ones. On Aidenfield Cycle Connection, you could see that there was an existing dirt path linking up to Bronco Drive, so the community pretty much said, why don't you just connect this up? Obviously people are already using it, so that was something that we were able to address. Implementing more trees, investigating visibility and lighting. On Rona Street, the community were very clear that they disliked the turning head at the end of the street, so that's being removed. We added additional curb build-outs, added drainage improvements because it's a huge problem for the community, and added a give-way at the Buckley's Road intersection. On the Simeon Street cycle connection, we were able to reinstate parking outside the school. The school were very clear that they felt the plan would inhibit the ability for parents to come easily during drop-off and pick-up times. So we were able to look at some P3 timed parking, as well as adding 2 pedestrian crossings to cater to the school. Separator width was reduced as well to accommodate the fire station to maximise the space for fire trucks coming in and out of the station. And finally, Te Aratai College cycle connection, we were able to retain 19 car parks outside the businesses on Ferry Road, Allwins and Ensor's intersection. It was very clear that they were worried about the impact to their businesses, so we were able to go back, share an updated plan, which they indicated that they're happy with. So that's just an example of some of the changes we were able to make as a result of consultation. Next steps, what happens after the decision? Do you want to?
Sure. So after the decision, we have a very short period of time to submit our plans for approval, or have Wakakotai approve our final design plans. And then that leads on to the final decision about what gets taken forward for construction through funding agreements by the 20th October. As a result of the timeframes, we've already had discussions with contractors around ensuring that they are in a position to be able to deliver within the timeframes. So if we get a confident decision today, we can be very confident that we'll be able to deliver and be in a very good position to maximise the opportunity to have these delivered.
Right.
Thanks very much.
Get it?
Yeah,
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. And yeah, we appreciate the incredible pressure that you'll be under to get this going. So we need to be sure that we get this right in the next 2 days.